Welcome back. Another week in the books. You're tuned in to NFL Food for Thought right here on RotoGrinders.com. I'm Justin Carlucci, the Luuch, alongside a Will Priester, the Chief. What's going on, my man? I feel like it's been months since we talked, but it was only about a week. How are you?
I'm good, man. I don't even know how serious my sweat is today with my prop play because, I mean, it's just not breaking. This game, this Monday Night Football game hasn't gone any way that I thought it would. I mean, Baltimore can't move the ball. Michael Pittman hasn't had a target. There's 5 minutes left in the half. And all this means is in the second half, everybody's going to go off. That's really all it means, right? And this is something that I know. So, welcome to the podcast, everybody. Sad to, or sorry to be such a Debbie Downer, but this is awful.
A lot of football left. A lot of games probably didn't go as predicted. Of course, you have New England, who took Tom Brady to the ropes in his return at Gillette, almost lost to the Texans. You have Big Ben, looking like vintage Big Ben a little bit in that game. When Pittsburgh
Big Ben is still dust. I don't care what happens. He needs to be replaced.
You have the undefeated Cardinals who were wearing the crown, only beating San Fran by 7, and Trey Lance didn't look great, and he's dinged up, and we'll talk about injuries shortly. You have Buffalo taking it to the Chiefs at Arrowhead, and there was a long weather delay in that game, too. I don't know if anybody had props on weather delays this season, but we're already at 2, and I'm pretty sure the over hit on how many weather delays we see this season. And, of course, you have Dak and the Cowboys throttling the Giants at home, and Saquon.
A depleted Giants team, might we add, because they should have throttled the Giants. No Danny Dimes, no Saquon, no Galladay, no Darius Slayton, no Sterling Shepard. If they should have throttled the Giants. And by the way, don't look now, but that Danny Dimes injury, boy, did it cost me. I had some 4 out of 5s on Prize Picks that just didn't get there because Danny Dimes got hurt, and I hope he's okay. Or had a concussion rather. Sorry, man. Let me, it's been that kind of week.
We got to brush those shoulders off and move on, man. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to hit the reset button with this podcast, get everybody ready for the rest of the week. But you said Dallas should have throttled the Giants, and they did. They handled business, and the Cowboys are for real. They're for real in that NFC. Chief gives us a little fist pump as he's got the game on his screen over there. Don't spoil it for me. I'll wait and see till we're done here. But there's a billion injuries. This was a terrible week. We can start with the Giants, and we can only tell you what we know right now and what some hypotheticals would mean because we're here on Monday night. Really stinks for Saquon Barkley. The ankle didn't look good. Not sure on the severity and the longevity of that injury yet, but I just hope he's not one of those players that can't stay on the field. Let me tell you this, Chief. I work for a local newspaper, and I used to cover sports. And I saw Saquon play once or twice. He went to high school about 25 minutes from where I grew up. And there, you see that boy play on a high school field, and you say, well, he's just doing things nobody else can do out there. It's not even fair. Playing out there with some honor roll students and some guys that just want to get out there and get some burn. He just outclassed everybody else on the field. So right. That one, I'm pulling for him more than most athletes to kind of be successful because he's a nice guy too. He's a nice kid. A lot of positive local stories about him. I hope he returns to the football field, and I hope he's fully healthy. He was playing a lot of snaps again. They took that leash off rather quickly earlier in the year, Chief. And Just unfortunate that, he went down. You said Danny Dimes went down. Obviously, Slayton, Shepard. Oh, well, if there was anything that opened the door up for the rookie Tony to do his thing, and he saw a ton of volume. So talk to me. What do we know about these Giants injuries, Chief? And moving forward, I mean, where do we go from here? It's kind of a day-to-day thing until we find out some more. And don't look now, they got the Rams coming to the Meadowlands, to MetLife this week. So it's not going to get any easier at all for the Giants.
Yeah, for sure. The Giants season may essentially be over with these injuries. Like, and that's the thing about football that kind of sucks, right? Like, a couple injuries early could just take your season all the way off course. And here's why I'm saying that. Think about what just happened last week with the big win, right? And by big, I mean getting out of there, getting the win in overtime. And then the week before, whenever they played Washington, they should have won that game. Had a costly penalty. I think the Giants season is done, and it's not because I think they were a bad team. I think the injuries have they're ravished, man. And I know what that feels like. I mean, we had Cam Newton on our team for a while, and Jonathan Stewart and Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly, and Kuechly would get a concussion. Thomas Davis would be hurt. Cam would go out with a shoulder injury. It's just and when that happens, an offensive lineman gets hurt. A cornerback goes out, and then it's like, well, I mean, you got to strap up and play, but when it's not your best players, it is football, but the best players have to be on the field, period.
I feel you. You're talking to a guy who supported Marcus Mariota. I was dying on Mariota Mountain for years, and the guy just couldn't stay healthy. Played one snap this year as a Raider, and he landed on IR. That was a tough stretch because you really want a guy like that to succeed. But don't look now. This year, no Julio Jones for a couple weeks. A.J. Brown barely played this week. Bud Dupree, the big splash signing for Tennessee. I know what you're going through, and you know who Tennessee is coming to town on Monday night. The best team in football right now.
Yep.
So we will get to some Bills Chiefs talk then. But looking at these price tags here, DraftKings did their thing. More kudos to them. Devontae Booker, relatively cheap, but he's not a free square. 5,400 against the Rams. Kadarius Toney, 5,600. Let's just say Barkley's out because it's looking like he's out. Galladay, I don't see him playing. Shepard, who knows? If you're rolling out, Toney is the one, and Shepard's the workhorse or lack thereof this weekend. Do you have interest in anybody on this Giants team?
I feel like we should, right? I mean, they're going to have so many guys that you can look at, but it's going to be tough. This is almost one of those, let me wait and see how things shake out. Let me get to the end of the week. Let me hear some coach speak. Let me get something from some beat writers. Like, let me figure out something. Clearly, Toney was the alpha dog. If for some reason, if he's out, God, what's the other guy? Is it Horde or Board? God, what's his name? I can't.
It's Board. CJ Board.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think he's going to be in the mix. Evan Ingram, the other tight end they have, maybe he's in the mixes. I mean, it's just it's going to be a puzzle piece to put together. I can tell you that much.
Don't look now. John Ross had 5 targets, didn't do anything with them, but he's 3,100. And boy, hey, do I hate to say John Ross in 2021. Listen, man, we're looking at obviously a 1-game sample, but Toney had 28% of the air yard market share last week. And even in week 4, Toney had 24% of the air yard market share. John Ross isn't far behind. So let me ask you this. Would you rather have Toney at 5,600 or John Ross at 31? That's tough. The volume appears to be more with Toney, but Ross is a one-play lightning strike in a bottle kind of receiver. So I think maybe for large field GPPs, keep John Ross, in the back of your mind there if you need a total punt.
I can go with that.
Okay.
I mean, 3,100, you can't – I mean, what – I can't beat that. I mean, at 5 targets, I think that's a big deal. Yeah,
I don't know if it matters who's playing quarterback, and hopefully speedy recovery for Danny
Well,
Dimes.
I mean,
Hopefully,
what's his face? What is his name? Um,
Mike
Teddy
Lennon.
Bridgewater. No,
Oh,
Teddy Bridgewater came back after a week. So, hey, maybe Danny Dimes can get back in there. You know?
yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. All right, what's the next most notable injury in your eyes from this previous week, Chief? Like what's the other headline here? What are we thinking?
Uh, I mean, I think and there were some big injuries. Don't get me wrong, and I think a lot of it was with the Giants. I think the big one is one that we kind of go back to. Is Dalvin Cook really week to week, or is he actually hurt for an extended period of time? Right? Like what's going to happen this week? You know, what are we going to see? What type of ramp up during the practice week? Like if he goes through another week where doesn't practice, limited practice, it's like, okay, is he going to play this week? Like what's going on here? Is Christian McCaffrey going to play this week? Remember, they were saying, oh, he's about ready to play, and then last minute it's like, no, he's not playing. And I would much rather them do that than to roll him out there hurt. See, but you got two big time running backs that are in this weird little stage of, are they going to play? Are they not going to play? And I think we'll know, but I do think it's a big deal because guess what? They're playing each other.
That's true. That's true. And in terms of Alexander Madison, I know he's playing your Panthers, and I know they have a really nice front seven, but I don't think 6,200 is enough for Madison in that role. I think he's a 7K plus running back at least. He's literally, and I don't like using that word, a plug and play in that system. There is nothing they won't run for Alexander Madison that they will not run for Dalvin Cook. Madison might be one of the top 20 talented runners in the league. You couldn't ask for a better handcuff there. So obviously Madison was chalky last week. He was about 700 cheaper, I believe, on DK. But that guy is a volume machine in fantasy. Is all about opportunity. So if Dalvin Cook is out again, I mean, I'm not hesitating here. That's chalk I will play again.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure.
So the Steelers aren't on the main slate, but Juju Smith-Schuster had surgery, and he's done so. And I believe he's on a contract year, too. So he might not ever suit up as a Steeler again.
Done for the year, man. Done for the year.
That's sad. You hate to see it, man.
Yeah. Done for the year. There's nothing he can do.
Now, that's not obviously on the main slate, but moving forward, how much of a boost is that to Deontay Johnson, who is already the alpha target guy there? Or is it more of a bump to Claypool or Najee? Like, what are your thoughts here with the Steelers skill guys?
I think it's just a redistribution of the targets. Like, I think all these guys, even James Washington may end up with a little bit more targets than we anticipate. Now, he's further down the pecking order, don't get me wrong. But I definitely think for Claypool and Deontay, like, I think, you know, these guys are probably going to get 10 or 15 targets a game, both of them. Or close to it, you know, close to it. Najee's probably going to get 5 to 10 a game. And I say 5 to 10 because we don't know when he's going to have the 8-target game, and we don't know when he's going to have the 5-target game, you know. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Just crazy injuries out there.
James Washington wanted that trade, and he never got it. Now he might have a real opportunity on his hands. Although it was Ray McLeod who played 50% of the snaps. He played most of the game when Juju was out. So that's interesting. I wasn't paying a ton of attention to the Steelers last week. So keep an eye on who's going to have that role moving forward. Trey Lance, Niners, I believe, are not on the main slate either. No, he was 5,700 last week. Chalky cash game type of option. Didn't play well. Not necessarily, really didn't play well. Didn't have George Kittle. Obviously, that hurts too. Arizona, one of the best teams on both sides of the ball, kept the Niners in check. And now he's dealing with a sprained left knee. And who we still don't have we still don't have a timetable on Garoppolo's injury either. So they're on a bye week, I think, Chief. I believe. Is that right? Are the Niners on a bye week? They're not on the main slate regardless. So we can wait for that to develop too. And hopefully we get something more solidified as this week rolls around. But how about the Bills and Chiefs game? And our elephant in the room segment here is basically just we're taking up injury time because there's so much to cover. Not only did the Chiefs get their butt kicked by the Buffalo Bills, they came out half in a body bag. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is week to week. Guess who just traded for him in his 16-team auction home league? This guy.
You did.
Guess who traded Matt Stafford away in a deal to get him? It was me. Guess who I had to start in Stafford's place that I thought everything would be fine? Russell Wilson. So I took a double L in that one. Anyway.
It's all good.
It's all good. Smiles on my face. Ready to move on. The sun's going to shine another day in fantasy football land. But
yes,
Edwards-Helaire, I'm assuming is not going to play this week. So we have McKinnon or we have Williams. We have to talk about that. We don't also have any clarity on the severity of Tyreek Hill's injury. Travis Kelce got rocked in the later portions of that game too. And he apparently has a stinger, but to me, it looked like he had a concussion when he got drilled. We need some clarity with this Chiefs team too, Chief.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's talk about this. The Chiefs are not a winning football team right now. And I think this is something. Did we mention this last week, Luuch?
Hey, the mic is yours.
Did we talk about this? What if Kansas City's just not good this season, right? Like, they're talented. They're talented, and I think we're giving them the benefit of the doubt. I think we talked about this, but it's a relevant point. We're giving them the benefit of the doubt because of prior success. But at what point this season do we say, hey, maybe they're just not good right now? I'm not saying they can't turn it around, but, teams have figured out, or some teams are deciding that they're going to take Tyreek Hill away and put a little pressure on Mahomes, right? And make him make some errant throws that they're not going to let Tyreek just blaze a trail down the field on them. And the other thing is, what you talked about in terms of injury, Travis Kelce, they put the wood on him all game. It wasn't just that last play. Like, they were sticking him the whole game. And so I just think they might be in trouble because even now some of their talent is not enough to get them over the hump. Right?
Maybe we saw the beginning of that, of some things being exploited in the Super Bowl where the offensive line just got destroyed. Mahomes has been kind of scrambling for his life. And I saw a stat on Twitter today that he has thrown an interception in 13 of his last 14 games. That doesn't sound like the Patrick Mahomes we've been accustomed to seeing. But but some things are just not the same. You're right. I'm willing to go back to them this week because you know who they have? The Washington football team, who just gave up 33 to Jameis and company. They gave up 30 to the Falcons the week before. They gave up 43 to Buffalo. They gave up 29 to the Giants. So we're talking about most of the season, the Washington football team. Chase Young and this defense, who were supposed to be a top third of the league unit, just haven't put it together. So if there is not a better damn bounce back spot with a team with maybe a little bit of a negative narrative surrounding it and maybe some injury concerns and maybe there's some game time decisions, I think the Chiefs go out there and ball out this week. I'm curious to see.
Of course they're going to ball out.
Well, what if they're not a good team, though?
The Washington football team isn't a good team.
Okay, that's fair.
But here's what I'm saying. If you're the Chiefs, you got to beat good teams, right? Because guess what? Pretty much everybody in your division is better than you right now. So you need to beat the chart. Like, you got to beat these teams. So, when I'm looking at the Chiefs and they're playing Washington, okay, well, that's 1 week where they get a bad team. But all in all, you got to beat the good teams. This is the AFC right now. I'm going to give you the standings. And I was trying to get the full, but I'm just going to break it down by conference. What if I told you the Chiefs are last in the AFC West? through 5 weeks. Now, remember, this is football. So they're pretty much a fourth through their season, or a third, rather. Excuse me, a third through the season.
I would have told you that you were high as a kite right now if you were telling me that before the season.
Correct. The Chargers are 4-1. The Broncos are 3-2. The Raiders are 3-2. The Chiefs are 2-3. The problem is they're going to have to really get to the top of this division. Like they need to at least be second to even have a shot at getting in the playoffs, because the Bills are coming out of the AFC East. Right? As of right now, we have the Chargers. Now, the Chiefs could totally turn this thing around. They're only 2-3. I remember the Patriots having some weird record like this before, and it was on the Cincinnati game, and they just ran away. So the Chiefs are high-powered enough to win some games. But you have the Ravens winning games. You got the Bengals that are 3-2. The Browns are 3-2. Like at some point, the AFC North is going to squeeze two teams in. And depending on what happens with the AFC West, maybe they squeeze two teams in, and one of them may not be the Chiefs. Like, what happens if it's the Broncos? Or, like right now, Tennessee's leading the AFC South, and they should be 4-1.
Don't upset me. Don't upset me.
I'm not trying to, but you see my point. It's like, well, where do the Chiefs fit in if for some reason they can't beat the better teams? Because at some point you have to beat the better teams. The losses that they've had this season, well, they beat the Browns, which was a good team. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Chargers. They lost to the Bills. You see, they have to beat good teams. They're playing Washington next week. Then they're playing the Titans. Okay. They're playing the Giants, who are depleted. But then they're playing the Packers. Can they beat the Packers? I don't know. They're playing the Raiders. Can they beat the Raiders? I don't know. They're playing the Cowboys. Can they beat the Cowboys? I don't know if they'll beat the Cowboys right now. They're playing the Broncos, who are more of a defensive team. Will they beat the Broncos? I don't know. They play the Raiders again. They play the Chargers. They play the Steelers, and they're playing the Steelers late in December. They're playing the Bengals, and then they're playing the Broncos. You tell me if this team is bad or not as good as we think. This feels more like an 8-9 situation, or 9-8, rather than what we're accustomed to them seeing. Now, I'm clearly thinking the Raiders will have a meltdown. I don't think the Raiders are as good as we think, right? I don't think that. But the point still remains right now. The Broncos are 3-2 and the Raiders are 3-2. And I think the Broncos have a better chance to win because they have a better defense. So how do the Chiefs overcome this when essentially the other teams are going to be having a better record as well? Like how do they overcome? No clue. All right, I'm off that soapbox, but
there's gonna have to be some magic, because they're having the same problems: offensive line and defense, offensive line issues and defensive issues. Right? I saw the I don't know what the memes were, the tweets where the Honey Badger was so disgusted with Sorensen at the back end. They're throwing his arms up after every play he's given up. I mean, it was brutal. I mean, they didn't have Chris Jones. Okay.
2 separate plays, and they look like identical busted coverages. Yeah. If nobody's watching,
that little cover one they run just wasn't happening. This wasn't happening against Josh. I mean, kudos to Josh Allen. I had this conversation with a friend today. I know we're going off the rails a little bit here, but I don't recall a quarterback getting so much better in like 3 years than Josh Allen since he was drafted until right now. I don't recall a quarterback getting that much better so quickly while he's been in the league. Of course, Mahomes has gotten a little better, but he was pretty damn good when he took that first snap in the league. When Josh Allen first he could not throw a deep ball to save his life. He wasn't accurate. He made a lot of, I know we had this conversation about giving rookie quarterbacks some time, and that's what they did. And they brought in some pieces to help him out. Still don't really have a run game though, but you bring in Stephon Diggs, you bring in Cole Beasley, got Emmanuel Sanders now.
Yeah. But you see my point though, man, like think about teams that took the time to give their quarterback time. And remember, I don't think Baker Mayfield's elite, but I respect the Browns for giving a rookie quarterback time that's literally had, seemingly 40 million coaches, right? You have to give the guy a shot. You can't bring in 5 coaches and then say, oh, Baker's bad. That's not fair.
Correct.
Yeah. And so if you look even over this past weekend, since we're talking about quarterbacks, we're talking about Baker and maybe his improvement. one of the things I heard, Ryan Clark saying, I know it's ESPN and we're thinking, we can't listen to ESPN, but you have to listen to guys that have played the game, I think. I try to, even a guy like Rex Ryan, who may have faltered later in his career in coaching, he still understands football. Ryan Clark still understands football, even though they may be detached from being inside the league. They understand what it's like to be in a locker room. And one of the things he said, Baker's a good quarterback, but he's still not a quarterback that you feel like can go out and win it for you in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left. And so, but here's what I'm saying. This is Baker's second year. In my opinion, Baker's a sophomore quarterback. And here's why I say that. Those first 2 years, I mean, come on, he had Freddie Kitchens one year that didn't know anything. I mean, what a terrible experiment that was. And then the year before that, he had the guy that came over from Cincinnati. What is his name? Jeez. And he had him for half a season. So you get what I'm saying? And then he had a full season with a competent coaching staff. And then lo and behold, he gets better. So in my mind, Baker's like a sophomore quarterback-ish. So I think next season he takes another jump like Josh Allen, who is in his third season now, right? Or is this his fourth season? Third season for Josh Allen? Okay, yeah, third season for Josh Allen, he keeps taking these leaps every year. Same coaching staff, had McDermott, a guy they believe in. What do they do every year? Give him weapons. Emmanuel Sanders, not Tyler Croft, Dawson Knox is coming on. They went out and got John Brown for him for a year. You see, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs. Mm-hmm. They get the guy weapons. They make sure he's ready to go. This is the stuff that championship teams are built on. Then what do? They make sure their defense is okay. Well, watch this. Cleveland has done the same thing. Now they need Baker to keep taking the leaps, right? So we want to see, will he take the leaps? And that's what we're going to have to do with these rookie quarterbacks. And guess what? Patrick Mahomes kind of came out of the gates fiery, but guess what? He needs to take another leap now because his team needs him more than they have in the past. Because the people are catching on to the scheme maybe a little bit, almost like Sean McVay. I know I'm hogging the mic here. Please forgive me. But almost like when teams were catching up to Sean McVay with Jared Goff. Do you remember that? First year he gets there, Jared Goff looks like a superstar. Then the teams catch up that, hey, they're running 11 personnel a lot. And lo and behold, Jared Goff isn't as good as he's looked. Now is Jared Goff Patrick Mahomes? Absolutely not. But my point is, look at what's happening to Patrick Mahomes now that people seem to be catching up a little bit. See? Anyway, elephant in the room. There you go. Patrick Mahomes needs to improve. You only get that here on the first on Food for Thought, people. Nobody's saying Patrick Mahomes needs to improve. And Rodrigo Blankenship misses a field goal.
Thanks for that spoiler. I'm curious to see how this backfield shakes out this week. Darrell Williams outsnapped McKinnon 37-27. That was a pretty pass-happy script. And when Edwards-Helaire exited the game, I just have a funny feeling about Jerick McKinnon. They need, if Tyreek or Kelsey do not play, they're going to need another playmaker out there. And not a knock against Darrell Williams, who's serviceable, but McKinnon just gives them that extra dimension out of the
backfield. A little juice.
I have a strange feeling about Jerick McKinnon. We'll get to some game stacks and things like that in our
Ravens offsides. They're going to get another shot at this thing.
Some of that recipe for success coming up.
And guys, I think so. Sorry, Luuch. What maybe can be a staple of this pod is us ranting and raving about Monday Night Football. This is so much fun, even though you guys will be getting it later. They did start dialing up the targets to Michael Pittman, by the way. I don't know if you saw that, but the targets have been dialed up. Just FYI.
Oh, I'm locked in, man. I'll come back for the fourth quarter then. Recipe for success. We'll get to some of our game stacks and games to target then. A couple other notes from this previous week here. Let's talk about that Browns-Chargers game. You talked about Baker Mayfield. Nice segue there. Listen, the volume was there for Nick Chubb all year. He finally got his nice 50-yard touchdown in that game. Can't say enough about Justin Herbert. We talked about that division. Talk about making a leap and getting better. It looks like the Chargers have hit a home run with Justin Herbert so far in his young career in this very young part of the season. Mike Williams goes from not involved last week to just get peppered with targets this week. Listen, I'm honest. You could have given me 7,000 lineups and I wouldn't have full stacked that game once. I would have had some pieces to it because I did like Chubb and I did like Hunt. But kudos to whoever, picked that one out and has some exposure in their 150 bills or, your 3 maxes or whatever. I did not expect that game to have 80 points in it.
No,
because both of those defenses have been pretty damn good so far this year, and they're good on paper too. Very talented. Crazy game though. What are your takeaways from that one, Chief?
Well, I think, one of my takeaways is the Chargers are a high-powered offense. And the funny thing is, they are high-powered at every position. Every position. Look at Austin Eckler, involved in the passing game and the running game, right? He can burn you on both ends of the rope, of the candle. Mike Williams, big receiver, big catch radius, but can also just get open, right? He can just get open. Keenan Allen, move him all over the place. Target monster, doesn't drop a lot of passes. I mean, it's insane. And then secondly, as you hold your hands above your head, we're going to pause in the middle of our program because I know what this is about. And now this is the elephant out of the room, as I'm sure you're looking at John Gruden being out as the head coach of the Raiders. And what a time to be alive. Nothing against John Gruden. This isn't about John Gruden. This is just about the fact that he's out. Wow. Yeah. Initial thoughts for the $10 million man, as they are they're sending them packing with the division game coming up against the Broncos. A lot of implications here. 2 teams that are above the Chiefs playing each other this week. So the Chiefs will naturally, if they win, start getting back into the fold. One of these teams is going to be second in the division officially, and one is going to be third. And my gosh, you almost have to think it's the Denver Broncos in Denver as their coaches, as the Raiders coaches now out of the coaching seat. Luuch, your thoughts?
Wow. Yes. Yeah. I just popped up when you were talking, man.
I know. I saw it going on, and I saw your hands going. This is a pod we may have should have had with video. I saw you put your hands in your head like unbelievable. And now let's get your thoughts. I can't even listen to see what they're actually saying about it. But at any rate, you go right ahead.
I just saw it pop up, and I mean, we heard some ugliness come out of some things that non-football related that Gruden, what reports said years ago, and I'm sure there's more to the story. And maybe as some more things unfold, we'll find out, some more of those facts, Chief. But, from a football standpoint, I mean, if just strictly football and what that, you alluded to, wow, big divisional game coming up. Not only that, but Derek Carr, another guy who had the coaching carousel. And now how long of a leash can you give a guy like Derek Carr? Because you feel for all the personnel. Now you expect John Gruden and Carr to be together for 10 years when you bring John Gruden. So Carr is just waist deep in the Gruden system and personnel. And, it was allegedly very complicated when Gruden got in. So now that he actually digested all of these elements, and to be quite honest with you, strictly football, I thought that was a terrible 10-year decision to lock Gruden up as Oakland's head coach because, you haven't coached for 25, 30 years, and we saw a lot of outdated stuff he's been trying to do. I mean, God, you were screaming about the game script and the things he was trying to do last week when we were on the pod when they were in prime time. It just makes you scratch your head. Now, we're just talking strictly football, and I think, we're probably – better off, letting the story unfold as the week goes on.
Yeah.
But, obviously it sounds like Gruden had some character issues, and, he gets this portrayal of the funny guy who does the quarterbacks interview. You see him for 10 minutes on TV every week, growing up, but, you just don't really know what goes on behind closed doors and how people communicate. And I'm just curious to see how this plays out. But I just for the Raiders team, doesn't they're finally having a successful beginning of a season, a lot of optimism, a couple of big wins, and it just really sucks for the whole organization that this is happening. And was it the right move? If Gruden was involved with some of the ugliness that the rumors were, then I got to give kudos for the Las Vegas organization for saying, hey, man, see you later. That's my spin on it. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing. And I think no matter how you slice it, here's what teams don't want. Bad publicity. Right? Nobody wants bad publicity, especially this is basically the first season where fans are coming inside the new arena, the new stadium, and it looks beautiful. I mean, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
They're in Vegas. Fans are behind the team. And guess what? They are winning, right? They've won some games. And I think they just don't want anything to derail maybe the positivity and the direction the team is going in. And so it's the same thing with Urban Meyer, right? Like I don't want to make this just about Gruden. Like I want to make this about organizations, right? You're looking and they're saying, okay, how much of a distraction is this really going to be? And yeah, like things were bad. Like what Urban Meyer did was bad, and what John Gruden did was bad. So I'm not trying to take away from the actions. I'm just saying from an organizational standpoint, people don't want the drama. Like I watched an interview with Cam Newton just talking about why he felt like the Patriots released him. And it's not, and one of the things Cam said, and I'm paraphrasing, he's on his exact words, I'm paraphrasing. But what he said was, he wasn't going to have a problem being a backup. But he felt like the Patriots organization was going to have a problem because of all the questions and all the, hey, Cam can handle it. And how's Cam going to feel being a backup?
The media.
And what is this going to, right. And so he said he felt like they just said, hey, man, they just kind of had to let him go. And also, Mac Jones was maybe going to be uncomfortable, right? Because he was going to have to get asked questions and just stuff. And so, if you kind of just don't want to deal with all of that, sorry, I hit my microphone there. So if you guys hear that's what happened. If you don't want to deal with all of that and everything that's going to come with the decisions that someone else has made, I think the teams, made a decision to try to cut ties and, bringing us back to football, like you talked about with Derek Carr. Like you said, he's another one and was having a pretty good season overall so far.
Yeah.
Like no quarterback's going to come out and have an immaculate game every game. But you look at Carr, I mean, he was having a much better season. And now I'm sure one of the assistants is going to step in and be the interim. But guess what's going to happen next season? Whole new coach, it may not be a whole new playbook, whole new system. That coach is going to want to install their philosophy, get their type of quarterback, their type of players, and Derek Carr may be it, but now he's hitting the reset button again. We can't expect that from quarterbacks. We just can't.
It's unfair to them almost, right? I mean, we talk about Trubisky from time to time, and kind of the situation he got.
And I will say, in Trubisky's case, I do feel like he had chances. Right. And he switched, but I do feel like the organization gave him chances. Like even when Nick Foles came before or when he came that year and he was the backup, they gave Trubisky the job. They're like, no, hey, Trubisky's going to be our guy. And Trubisky lost the job. I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
They gave him chances, Yeah.
There's just been so much off the field stuff. Gruden now. Urban Meyer, obviously, within 2 weeks of each other, all that stuff coming.
And PS too, I'm sure Trubisky's happy to be in Buffalo. Like I do think he's probably one of the best backups they could have gotten at the time, considering Cam wasn't released. Like if Cam was available, they probably would have taken Cam. McDermott knows Cam. McDermott came from Carolina. On the defense side of the ball, Cam probably would have been a perfect fit for that offense as a backup, considering there would be massive drop off in the passing game, but Cam would be able to keep this team afloat and win. Like you get what I'm saying? Like he can still win games, and I think Trubisky can win games. I think him being a backup in Buffalo is a good situation. He gets to keep some job security, won't have to play much, right? But he understands enough to get in there and hopefully not blow a season for those guys if something, weird were to happen. All right, I'll shut up now.
How much pull did Gruden have calling the plays offensively, do you think?
I feel like he may have had enough. Like they paid him $10 million. Look, this is how I feel. The guys that get paid the money, they're on the field. They get to make the decisions. I gotta assume he had some weight in the play calling.
I don't think we're talking football strictly. I don't think it could be a positive thing for them. Listen, they got the Eagles coming up. They got the Broncos winnable, Eagles winnable, bye week, Giants, struggling Chiefs.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is a rally game, right?
Yeah.
We didn't know this before, but this is one of those, hey, we just got to go out and try to win this game for us. Forget the coach.
Absolutely.
We just got to – and let me tell you why I say that. Because this is something – and you guys will realize I like to listen to – I told you, I like to listen to coaches and players that have played. Drew Brees said this last night on Sunday Night Football. He's like, look, at some point it's got to not be about the coach. He was like, it's got to be about the players playing for each other, right? You want to win games, we got to set the culture. Like, yeah, the coach comes in, they install a culture, they got things going that they want to do, so forth and so on. But the players still have to look each other in the face and say, look, man, we've got games to win. We need to play better. We want to win and play for each other. I think that's what we get out of the Raiders this week, win or lose. They're going to have to bond together and play together. And that's an intangible that we can't measure with gridiron IQ or air yards or any of that. It is a part of the game. We can't measure it, but I think it's very important for situations like this.
Crazy stuff. Didn't expect to get that news right now, and I thought it was possible, but while we were recording, that was some of our bigger breaking news we had here. So I'm glad we got to talk about that, Chief. Anything else about last week or John Gruden or whatever before we take a look at some of these games?
Man, let's hop in these games, my brother. Let's hop in the game like EA Sports.
Let's dig into it, man. Game environment. Give me one of your favorites kind of first glance here, Chief.
I mean, come on, man. you should already know what game I'm on this week.
So you're taking the over in the Carolina-Minnesota game.
No. Come on, just think really think about how I like to read these games. Just try me out for a minute.
Well, we could talk about the 55.5 total in the Chiefs-Washington game because I like both sides of that. I'm going to talk about
not that one.
All right. Well, we're not talking about the London game, and man, the NFL must really hate London because they get to see Miami and Jacksonville.
Hey, listen, we're going all the way to the end of the day, brother. Dallas at Patriots.
Okay.
This is a big game. And let me tell you why I say that. Let me tell you why I say that. If Dallas wants to continue to insert themselves as one of the better teams in the NFL, and I do feel like they are one of the better teams. I do feel that way. They've got to get this game in New England. And I don't care that it's like New England isn't as good. You got to keep winning, right? They're going to be on the road in Foxborough. Let's look at Dak, 7,100. Finally put up another fairly big performance. If you look at it, 21, 27, 25, 31, only had one sprinkled in there that he really didn't get there. Everything else, the guy's put up massive touchdowns. Ezekiel Elliott, questionable, think he's going to play. He's 7,100. When's the last time we've seen Zeke at 7,100? Well, he was 7K last week. But when's the last time we've seen that consistently from Zeke? Zeke was 6K in that mid 6K and under range all season last season. Different seasons that was out, I know. But then we move down, and then listen to this. How much do you think Amari Cooper is? He's continuing to be 6K. Yes, I understand that he's probably still not 100%, but had pretty good targets, 3 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown last week. At some point, I do think he has another big game. CeeDee Lamb, 6,500, 4 catches, 84 yards. But the biggest change in this offense, to me, is Dalton Schultz picking up 7 to 8 targets a game. And I think that's keeping all of this honest. My God, Michael Pittman. Big time, big time, big time. But Dallas has weapons all over the place, Luuch. Think about it.
Yeah, you're right.
And so what I'm saying is their defense seems to be catching up. Mr. Diggs just gets an interception every game now. What is Bill Belichick going to do? I don't think there's much he can do. I mean, we saw them struggle with Houston. What do you think Dallas is going to do?
It's such a balanced attack, right? But
yes. You know,
and it should be, if it's decent weather. The Tom Brady game, the conditions, I don't know. I'm willing to kind of
it was a weird game. I mean, it was rain.
So while some people might say Cooper and Lamb are underpriced, because the volume is so spread out with Schultz now, and even Cedric Wilson's involved, and he's throwing passes, and Zeke and Tony Pollard, maybe their prices are warranted because they're not going to get those 15 target games. I think Lamb or Cooper might have had one of them, but now, you know, you have Pollard, you have Zeke, and you have Schultz, and you have Blake Jarwin, who's like the seventh fiddle now here. So right. Are those price tags okay, or are they underpriced?
I think they're okay. Yeah. I think they're okay. And I think what you can get away with now, I think we can almost get away with Dak, Zeke, Dalton Schultz stacks and fade the receivers. But I do think, and the reason why I'm pointing this game out is because the Patriots are going to have to score points, right? Like they're going to have to try to score points in this game. And so when I'm looking at these prices on guys like Jacoby Myers at 5,500, who's been a target monster on most weeks, right? You got to think he's a guy that's going to be in play. Hunter Henry is 3,900. He had eight targets, 6 catches. I think this is a sneaky stat game because of the overall pricing. Definitely would want to play Dak. Definitely would want to play Zeke. And definitely, I think, would want to play Dalton Schultz. Give me a little run back with some of these cheap receivers, and we can build whatever we want to build this week, Luuch. Very excited about this Dallas Patriots game where I feel like Dallas is going to do what they've been doing. Come in, put up a lot of points, make a statement, and try to get out of the stadium.
I like it. I mean, I want to talk about the game with the highest total. I know it's no surprise, but I want to talk about the flip side. I want Terry McLaurin everywhere this week. I'll play some Heineke. Like, I just think Chiefs are that bad defensively. But if they come out do their thing on offense and come out of the gate, then I'll play Tyreek Hill. I'll play Tyreek Hill in a game stack. McLaurin is such an alpha in that offense. He is averaging 42% of the air yard market share. The next closest one is Diami Brown at 23%. He didn't even play in week 5. DeAndre Carter saw a huge bump there. Terry McLaurin, Heineke, run it with Tyreek if he plays. If he doesn't play, I'll run it with Kelsey. I love the thought of that. Heineke has more upside than probably anybody ever anticipated, coming into the season. I mean, he's had some real games. He's under 6K in this matchup. I mean, he has 2 games where he was playing catch up and he threw the ball over 40 times. DK points, 10, 24, 23, 27, 11. Okay. His 11 was against New Orleans. I'm okay. New Orleans is a pretty good defensive unit. His opening week against the Chargers, I'm kind of willing to throw out. That was like the first real dress rehearsal for most of these guys coming off of a preseason where nobody played. So Heineke's quietly been really good per dollar. And I'm kind of really excited to play him. I know it sounds crazy, but I think it's a perfect match with the issues we're seeing with Kansas City. I think you play Heineke. I think you play McLaurin. There's no Logan Thomas. I'm expecting a dozen plus targets, maybe from McLaurin. Sounds a little crazy, but he had 11 last week, 13 the week before. And I think you can play the healthy chief pass catcher if one of them is out. Because quite frankly, I think you could, Washington could try to take one of them away, but they just might not have the personnel to do it. I think that's a lot of fun. What do you think about that game?
Quick question. If Travis Kelce were to sit, do you feel good about Blake Bell? Or do you say, hey, Miko Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle, like, let's get going here? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, what?
I don't know what direction to go there. I mean, for large field stuff, yeah, multi-enter it. Like, mix and match your stacks or your run backs. But I do like the McLaurin and the Heineke. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've been saying it like that all year. Little team stack and turn into a game stack with somebody from the Chiefs. That's my 2 cents there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
What else are you looking at coming up? Recipe for success.
You definitely think Terry McLaurin's going to be there. Adam Humphries, he's going to be fairly cheap again, right? So, you think, and let me get the price on him specifically. Adam Humphries is
3,400 on DK.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. 3,400. Had 5 targets, 73 yards. He gets a touchdown. That's 16 fantasy points. I think we take that. So, I think we're good there. So I like the spot overall. I mean, should be clearly this is a get right spot for the Chiefs, but it's a get right spot for Washington as well. Like this team, their defense, like we said, had big expectations, but we're not seeing anything.
Agreed. Who are some of your other targets this week in terms of game or team?
I'm definitely going to be targeting the Bengals, and possibly the Lions as well. I think this is another game where we get some good production, right? We saw T. Higgins come back, but it was still the Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow show. Jamar Chase, 9 targets against Jacksonville, 10 targets against Green Bay. T. Higgins did have 7 targets, 5 catches. Tyler Boyd, you look at him, he had 5 targets. But what have I been seeing mostly? Mostly it's Jamar Chase. It's the Jamar Chase show with Joe Burrow. So I think that's something to take note of, and let's see how it unfolds. What's going on in Detroit, like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, targets galore, right? And this is kind of in back-to-back games. Another game where it's in a dome. We're expecting him to be behind. 8 targets. I mean, looks like he's a guy that, as a rookie, they're going to be leaning on a little bit here. So, very excited about that. And then TJ Hawkinson in the same game. Only had 3 targets against Minnesota. I mean, God, at some point they're going to try to get him the ball a little bit more. Wouldn't you think?
You would think. And to your point, Jamar Chase is second in the league in air yard market share. Didn't really affect him. The T. Higgins return didn't affect Jamar Chase as he got 60% of the air yards through Cincinnati last week. So encouraging stuff there. And he's under 7K on DK. So I totally I'm with you on the Bengals and specifically Jamar Chase. And big shout out to Christy Creighton, who does the Crunch Time show with us, had Jamar Chase with Devontae Adams, a sick lineup. I think she took home 15 G's on FanDuel, one of the single entries. So
take it home.
Yeah. Christy does her thing, represents us on Crunch Time every Sunday. So awesome content and great job, Christy. So great lineup and a great call on Jamar Chase with Devontae Adams there. So no, I'm totally on board with you there. Let's see, man. So we should probably talk about the Rams, playing the Giants, who are probably going to have a very hard time sustaining drives.
Do we really need to talk about this game?
Well, I mean, I just don't want people to think we're not looking at it, right?
I don't care about this game. I mean, the Rams should handily win it. And I'm not saying it's like a fade, but Cooper Kupp's 7,900. Like, how much are they going to need Cooper Kupp, like, overall in this game? Robert Woods finally came up, had a big game. I mean, this feels like a practice game, in my opinion. It really does. So I'm just – my gosh, Lamar Jackson's running wild right now. I just feel like how much are we going to need them to do in this game? Is this a Henderson game? Maybe. I do like Henderson at 6K.
Yeah, and I was following him very closely last week because I posted his prop the day before the game for Scores and Odds. And the guy's not going to come off the field if he's healthy. Unfortunately, he got dinged up. He came back, looked good, hit the over last week. That was fun. I do like that price on him. My rebuttal to you is only, well, the Tampa Bay game was a practice game, and they were optimal everywhere. and they just kept throwing the ball. I'm not saying Stafford's going to keep throwing the ball. You never know how McVay is going to call it, but Robert Woods is still cheap. If he finally got inserted back into that offense at 6,100, I'm interested. And if you're a believer in Kadarius Toney and you want to play the Giants will trail script, then I don't mind pairing someone like Woods with Toney in that game. So
for sure.
All right, let's look at running back here specifically. I know like a lot of places to get different are typically running backs, and I feel like we have the most questions about running backs from week to week. You have a couple guys that are chalk, right? And then after that, it's a lot of guys who are like sub 15%. So I'm looking at this, and the first thing that pops off to me is Jonathan Taylor, 6,600 against Houston at home. So that's like staring at me as the high floor, maybe chalky-ish kind of play. That's
as they're going to use him the way they did in this game, which they may start handing them the ball now that they're up. But this has been a frustrating experience with him. Like, I mean, they've used 3 running backs, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If Jonathan Taylor doesn't pop a 75-yard screenplay at the beginning of the game, he's only got 10 yards rushing so far. 10. We're in the third quarter. Now, look, can he still get – and this is just – now I am tilting. But I'm serious because I'm watching the game and I'm like, well, how are they handling this running back situation? So what Marlon Mack wants to get traded? Trade him. But he shouldn't be eating into the other guys' production. Hines and Taylor, if that's what you want to do.
Okay, well, I know it's impossible to iron anything out with all these questionable tags, and we don't know. But just looking at this pricing, what jumps out to you at the running back position? Obviously, the status of Dalvin Cook and McCaffrey, and of course Barkley is big. But we talked about that Kansas City game too, and it seems like a good spot for anybody in that game, really. But Antonio Gibson as well, right in that mid-6 range too. So a lot of interesting plays here, especially in that mid range. You mentioned Henderson. DeAndre Swift is always in that mid-6 range, and he has killer receiving upside. There's a lot of different directions to go this week.
I think the big one for me is in that same game. It's Antonio Gibson. I mean, at 6,500 against the Chiefs. I mean, good golly, Miss Molly. Like, shouldn't he be able to just rattle off and do whatever he wants to do? Sure seems that way to me. If he gets 20 touches, I feel like he can get there. The Chiefs aren't good on defense. Another thing here, Austin Eckler at 7,900. I mean, we see what they've been able to get done the passing game with their running backs tonight. Austin Eckler, he's just all over the place. So I think Eckler at 7,900 is probably going to be one of the best plays on the slate just because of the opportunities he's going to get. And then last but not least, if Dalvin Cook is out, Madison at 6,200, we're just going to go right back to the well.
Let me lay this out for you. Joe Mixon played 28% of the snaps last week. Samaje Perine played 61%. Chris Evans had 10% of the snaps. How healthy is Joe Mixon? I don't know. More importantly, Perine got placed
out
on the COVID list.
Yes, he did.
So if Mixon logs full practices every day this week, I'm in on Joe Mixon. If there's going to be a split and there's nobody else on that roster other than Chris Evans, here's our first 4K square who might not get the full workload, which maybe might keep his ownership in check a little bit. But it is Detroit. It is the Detroit Lions.
SOL, same old Lions.
What are your thoughts on this? Very hypothetical here, but give me a what if here with the Bengals backfield.
Well, we know Perine's not going to be there, right? Like Perine, he's not playing. So I think it's like you talked about, we get the free square. I think we take it. You know why? They're playing the same old Lions. It is what it is. It is what it is.
So many moving parts as the rest of this week develops. What else? Give me something else from this coming Sunday, and then we'll hop into story time and GPP food of the day to wrap things up.
Well, I can go ahead and close this out. Had my girlfriend's 40th birthday party this past weekend. It was fantastic. Took her to this place called Galpaio Guaucho. It was a Brazilian steakhouse. I mean, we had a fantastic time. Friends were there. She was very surprised, and I was honored to be able to do that for her. My favorite cut at the Brazilian steakhouse was a cut called Spicy Picanha. Spicy Picanha. My gosh, I enjoyed it. It was fantastic. Cut of beef. Something else I enjoyed, they had a bacon wrapped chicken breast, like chicken breast cuts. That was good. They had a piece of pineapple, warm pineapple that's grilled, that they put cinnamon and sugar on top, brown sugar. Oh, man, unbelievable. And then there was this cheese that they put a hot honey on top of. I just had a great time. We just went there this weekend. It was our first time going together, both of us. Our first time, period, but together. And I'm telling you, I would absolutely go back on a private date with my beautiful girlfriend. And so I was glad to get that off my chest. No more secrets. It was awesome.
And so you just wrapped up story time with GPP food of the day, kind of. So that was
there. You go.
That was pretty impressive.
There you go.
My story time is also had a busy weekend. It's like wedding season. I'm 31. Half of my friends are getting engaged or getting married, and a lot of them couldn't because of the pandemic last year. But I went to a barn wedding, which is, I guess, gaining popularity in the country. It was a nice venue. Actually, it was a family farm, and they cleaned the whole barn and like decorated. You would have never known that actual animals were living in there, and it was kind of crazy. Anyway, they had some beers on tap, but it was kind of a BYOB if you want to, or bring whatever you want with you. And so I brought a bottle of Crown Royal because I like Crown Royal. Wanted to make some mixers and left it out on the table we were sitting. I said, hey, anyone help theirself? No one really wanted to have a nice mixed drink with your boy on a beautiful, 6:00 autumn night. There was no cell service out there, so I couldn't watch Penn State lose. So I had nothing to really do, and I didn't really know anybody. So who taps me on the shoulder? It's an 89-year-old grandmother who wanted a glass of Crown on the rocks. So I did not expect for that to be my drinking partner with, but it was a hell of a time, man. Didn't see that one coming, and that was super fun. I'm getting a live reaction here from the Chief with this Monday Night Football game, and it's hard for me to keep it together here.
I don't know if Lamar was down or not. Either way, this is one of the best fumble returns I've seen in a long time. Like lateral. Did you see the play?
No, my attention's on you when we're recording, man. I got my eyes on you.
No, my attention's on you too, but like it's in my peripheral. And so then so what happened, I didn't realize Lamar fumbled. I looked up, I said, oh my gosh. And they're inside like the 10 too. They were inside the 5 actually. So if this is actually a fumble, this is incredible. But at any rate, yeah, man.
Listen, pour one out for my mental health because
BYOB.
Listen, I'm a Titans fan. Obviously, I need the Colts to lose this game because Tennessee has the Bills, the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Colts coming up, and that doesn't sit very well with me. That's like a gauntlet of a schedule there. But yeah, man, Chief, where can the people find you on Twitter and throughout the rest of the NFL week?
At Chief Justice 06. You can absolutely find me in the Twitter streets, talking Prize Picks, talking Thrive, talking Underdog. I love it. So let's get rolling, man.
Hey, man, always a blast with this barbershop type feel we're kind of putting out there. And if you want some more statistics and analytics, stay tuned later in the week. And the Chief will be always putting out some good prop stuff on his Twitter. But thanks for hanging out with us, kicking it with us for another week of NFL action. So for Will Priester, I'm Justin Carlucci. We'll see you next week. Good luck, everybody.